So now we're at this point, and I feel like I'm the only one who's pointed out LeBron scored 38 last Friday, then didn't play the subsequent, they played 2 or 3 since? And, of course, they lost him. And now they're out of the playoffs. Essentially, nobody's playing for the Lakers tonight that, they're going to hold, I guess, LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook's not going to play. That one's just, I don't even understand. But it's a major problem. And you may not have sympathy for it. I struggle with it because this is one of the things I get accused of all the time. So concerts, TV, games, trips, whatever, like I'm a last minute guy. And I understand that if you book it earlier, it's set, it's in stone, you save money. But I want you to think about it. Like any of these games, you plan on going to see LeBron James, you have no idea if he's going to play. And I'm only using LeBron James because he's the biggest star in the NBA, but the same could be said for Luka. The same could be said for Steph. The same could be said for pick the guy. And I understand that legacies are created in the postseason. No one ever says like, hey, remember that game in Minnesota on a Wednesday night in April? Oh, if that didn't signify that Michael Jordan was the best, nothing will. Like, nobody remembers those except the people who are attending them. And that is the basis. It's not truly how you make your money, right? You make your money through the TV deals. You make your money through the season ticket holders. You make your money through the sponsorships. But truly, you make your money because there's a relationship there between the fans and the players. And fans come to see their own home team, and they come see the visiting team because they get to see them, once a year max, if you can afford a ticket. Here's Adam Silver talking about how concerned he is over so many stars sitting.
Greater concern to me is a trend of star players not participating in a full complement of games. And I think that's something we, together with the Players Association, need to address. I'm not standing here saying I have a great solution. Part of the issue is injuries. And one of the things we have focused on at the league office, and we had begun to spend a lot of time on pre-pandemic, are there things that we can do in terms of sharing information, resources around the league to improve best practices, rehabilitation, et cetera. And the other way we can get at it in terms of player participation is creating other incentives. Play-in tournament, I thought, was a beginning of creating renewed incentives for teams to remain competitive and be fighting for playoff position. It may be through in-season tournaments and changes in format where we can get at it.
Yeah, so what he's talking about, and this is actually interesting, it's copying the European model. So when you play in Europe, okay, they have a couple of different things working where you have your league that you're in, your country league that you're in. First division, second division, third division, whatever. Okay, then the top teams in each of the leagues play in a Euro League, and there's different levels of it, right? The FIBA Euro Cup is the best of the best of the best. Now, the issue with how they pick those is they're picked from the previous year's results, so you don't always have the same team, or you're not as good as you were the year before. But nonetheless, that's how it works. But it's not just the top teams. Then they have secondary cups and tertiary cups as well. And then within most countries, you have an in-season tournament known as a cup. Right? And in those, generally how it works is you play against first and second division teams in kind of like an ongoing tournament that culminates sometime like mid-year. So these are all just ideas, and I commend Adam Silver because if you ever listen to him, like, he's brilliant. He wouldn't be in his job unless he was brilliant. A thoughtful guy and trying to figure out a way. He's talked about changing game times because people watch and go to games differently than when we were kids, when you had to do it at 7. And all right, is that the best time to actually do it? Should we do daytime games? How can we do it? So he's spitballing ideas, and one of them or two of them, they'll stick. They want that in-season tournament, no question. And the idea is if you have a tournament format, guys will show up, guys will play. The problem with that is what about the other games? Right? If we have an in-season tournament and we incentivize it, if we have different sorts of format, the regular season becomes even more diminished. The root of of all of the problems are not the guaranteed contracts, the length of the guaranteed contracts. That's it. If you have a 4-year or 5-year guaranteed contract, and in year 2, you're like, my body hurts. I don't know. I want to shut it down a little bit. I just do. I know of only one guy in the media who had, one guy had an 8-year guaranteed contract. He's still with the same company. He's very, very good. But I think if you even asked him, like, hey, are you as good or as sharp as you could be or should be, he would say no. And if you asked him if the 8-year contract, he's like, that's got to be part of it. Life changes. You've done it for a while. You lose a little bit of hunger. I mean, when the commissioner of the NBA admits that, and usually commissioners like to not admit any sort of problems, and it's not like a State of the Union, he's telling you this is a major problem, and people aren't happy. TV companies aren't. I mean, did you guys watch NBA last night?
A bit, yeah.
What was the late game on? Did you see it? Clippers Suns.
Clippers Suns. Yep.
Did you see what the Clippers did in the second quarter?
No.
The Clippers outscored the Suns 34-9 in the second quarter. The Suns outscored the Clippers 48-26 in the fourth quarter. But the big reason the Suns were getting beat by 30 was Chris Paul and Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton. None of them played. They didn't play. So imagine I'm a Clipper fan. I always want to go see Chris Paul. He's my guy. And I'm going to wait till late season, and they're jockeying for position or whatever. Clippers trying to jockey for playoff position, and nobody plays for the Suns. Now, you can say, well, that's a you problem. We're getting the last week of the season here, and you should buy playoff tickets. But, in the real world, you don't necessarily get the decision of, do you want playoff tickets or do you want to buy one of the last regular season games? I just think it's an awful look. My thing is, I don't think the guaranteed contracts, no one has a problem with that, the length of the guaranteed contracts, and they've shortened them. Remember, they used to be 6 and 7 years. Now they're 4 and 5 years. I still think that's long. I still think it's long. Because the players aren't actually held to the contracts, only the teams are.
Well, what about if your team is in the playoffs, as the Suns are, and you're a Suns fan, and you don't want those guys to get hurt? Let's say you don't want Chris Paul to injure himself again. He's been out for most of this, not most, but a lot of the season. I mean, isn't that play a little bit a part of like why they would sit out? I get what you're saying. I agree that games, for the most part, you want to see, I wanted to see Chris Paul play, and he's not playing. Well, I got screwed out of that. But the injury part of it, there is some part of that where you do want some of these guys to sit and not hurt themselves as they get ready for the playoffs.
Correct. Which is why late season, I use late season as just, it might not have been the best parallel like this, but it's happened throughout the year. And it's not just, and Chris Paul and even LeBron, you can make the case. You're like, look, man, I get it, but these guys are in their mid to late 30s. Like, okay, I will give you that. But pick out so many other NBA stars who are not in their late 30s, and they're missing games, and those are the ones that Leah, you want to be healthy. You want to be sharp. You want to be ready for the playoffs. Got it. There's a balance there, and too many times in November through February, guys are missing games, and fans get mad. They're your paying customer, and the TV companies are mad, and they fund everything you do. Right? This is directly it's the opposite way in which you should run a business is tick off who funds you and have your stars no show for the people that pay to see you. I mean, look, there's understudies on Broadway for a reason, but the understudy is there just in case, or maybe if there's a matinee.